because AI put it on paper.
Uh,
Don't know where you're posting the video.
well, it's Chris and Dan show, man. I mean,
All right.
we're here talking business, talking shop. Introverts versus extroverts. I am an extrovert.
According to your test.
According to my repeated tests over a decade, but
Uh,
only 60% that way, or 63. And
yeah,
you
I
are
think
an introvert
by 1%, I
by
think.
1%. But it still qualifies us to have
Sure.
personal viewpoints on the two
Sure.
personality types. Probably the most important, we do the Briggs-Myers, and there's a reason why that those letters I think are the first letters. I think they are the most telling of someone as far as their future actions, like how they're gonna react in certain situations. I think that's why these things are ultimately important to
Oh, I
understand.
entirely agree. And I would take it even a step further. The further along that spectrum you are, it's even more telling how that will evolve in your other personality
Mm.
characteristics, your other personality traits and characteristics. Like, let's say you're 100% introverted, right? Basically, you won't go outside,
You don't
right?
talk.
Yeah. So that absolutely plays into every other conceivable personality trait.
So you do think that these are the most important of the personality types, just these two.
Well, but prior to this recording, we were speaking on some people we know.
Yeah,
Um,
bring it up without
eh,
naming names, but
sure, some of them are more outgoing, some of them less.
we don't want to accidentally put them in the book.
Sure. Do you think any of them could be successful at 100% introvert?
No.
Yeah, I don't either. No, I think you have to have to be in the business place. You need to have some capability of being extroverted, or
Now,
at
the
least somewhat
inverse.
outgoing.
What about the inverse? Somebody's
No,
100% extrovert.
so I think your brain would be too scrambled at 100%
Right.
potentially. But if
And
you
that
could,
turns into a people pleaser very fast too.
right. But there's certain, sales where it's 100% just sales. So if you could just
So
structure
is it just as bad then to be 100% extrovert versus or 100% introvert, or is one better?
so it very much, I think I'm sure there's exceptions to this where some people with those characteristics could be successful in certain situations. I'm trying to think of one. I can't really. I mean, maybe a drug dealer or 100% extrovert. I don't know.
They'd get
Uh,
caught. He'd get caught too quick.
yeah. So
He'd be talking
100%,
too much.
you true. 100% introvert. Um,
He'd be too scared to do anything, make a deal.
yeah, they would absolutely need someone else. They couldn't be
So
successful unless
both of
they had
those would
someone
need
else.
someone else.
Yeah.
I'm
Like,
starting to think the 100% introvert is a better, if I'm gonna have to only choose one, it's probably the 100% introvert.
I'm not 100% sure. I have to really think about it, but I just gut feeling says yes, that's probably correct because at least they can focus and get things done.
Right, because usually introvert is perceived more negatively than extrovert. So that's why I brought
Hmm.
that up. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't necessarily think that's true. Now, I think with
Well,
the right
it
ratios,
it
they
could
all
be
could be
true.
good. They both could
No,
be good. It's just with the right ratio.
it could be true because usually introverts are the ones that have been forced to go to the party or whatnot and are called wallflowers, right? Because
Hmm.
they're not out there trying to talk to anybody. They're just up against the wall by themselves.
Yep.
And in that situation, you're not going to be able to network, right? So it
Right.
doesn't necessarily have to be a party for fun. It could be a business meeting, right? And if you're a wallflower, it's kind of hard to accomplish anything in terms of networking, which is very important in business.
Right.
So, and whereas conversely, the 100% extrovert, no problem. No problem getting out there and connecting. Um, so that's where the differences lie, right?
Yeah, it was just interesting to think about.
Oh yeah, definitely. But in terms of actually getting anything done, if you're 100% one way or the other on the spectrum, I think you have to go introvert, I think.
Now, I don't know if extroverts necessarily, if you're 100% extrovert, I don't know if that necessarily implies you're not able to focus.
No, I don't necessarily think so either, but what I think it does do is you're constantly distracted and wanting
Mm,
to socialize opposed to,
opposed to doing the work
you know,
when it comes to the actual operations, the finance.
whatever, right? Whatever.
You rather just chase the next deal as opposed to figuring out or you're more inclined to chase
Sure,
the next deal rather than figuring out how to do
com
with what you
com
already have.
completing the tasks at hand.
And then the introvert doesn't really get opportunities for other deals by
Right,
him or herself.
exactly.
Yeah. No one, I doubt anyone in the world's 100% on either, but there's people in the 90s. I personally know some people who scored in the 90s
Seriously?
on both. Well, at least on the extrovert, I know one of them
Hmm.
works for us
Yeah, and she's able to get her
at
things
Yuma
taken
Clinical
care of.
Trials
Is
with
she
it
able to
with
stay on
enough,
task?
well, with enough oversight. Yeah.
So she requires oversight to get things
Oh yeah.
done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes sense.
But definitely capable.
So she's not scatterbrained. It's just
Mm,
she's like
when she's not controlling herself, she is.
yeah,
When she's when she is cognizant about it and she's under the gun, she's not.
okay.
But so you have to control, you have to be aware of your limitations. Like, hey, I gotta focus. You know how like sometimes she puts herself in the room away from everyone else. Like I was like, why'd you go in that room? Well, that I need to focus, so otherwise I'm talking to everybody in here. So it's like when shit gets serious, she goes somewhere else.
By herself so that she can just do her job.
Yeah. But these days it's harder because you got text messaging, you've got
Sure.
Facebook mess. I mean, you've got all kinds of things. You know,
That are
your laptop has
distractions.
that focus button for a reason,
Hmm.
but to use it takes discipline because
But
extroverts get their dopamine hits from interactions.
sure, what's a focus button?
You don't have a Mac, so you don't know, but yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if PCs have that, but you can basically shut off all external communications on your laptop for
Hmm.
a certain period of time if you hit that button. I never use it because I'm only 63% extrovert, and
So you can
even that
control
I'll
it.
tell you, even that is hard enough. So I can't imagine like two orders of like a 90, going from 63 to 93.
Mhm. Three
I
orders.
Yeah, three orders I couldn't imagine that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think the regardless of what you have, you have to be aware of it. So there are times in business where like I guess how do they handle setbacks? Each one. Introverts kind of go within, obviously, to handle a setback, but that could be dangerous because that could spiral into depression. Extroverts kind of go outwards, could be dangerous because that could, I guess, project into addictive behavior and compulsive behavior, maybe. So, how do they handle setbacks?
Well, I'm I'm thinking in terms of just general relationships. I, I'm certain, well, I'm not 100% certain, but I'm fairly confident that when you meet somebody, like for example, when you ask somebody, how's your day going?
Mm,
Somebody that's probably 75 to 75, like 75% extrovert to 75% introvert, and anywhere in between that, they probably generally just tell you, yeah, everything's great. It's a good day or something
right,
similar,
right,
right?
right, right,
So where that um there's not much conversation there. But if you get above that 75% extrovert, and I've met these people where now I get their whole life story,
right,
right? Where they
right.
have no problems just talking your ear off.
Right.
about whatever, right? And I'm sure that has something to do with being extroverted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and of course, if you're beyond 75% introverted, you may not even get an answer to that question. I don't know.
Yeah. So I wonder if you're that, not to play psychologist on YouTube, but if you're that extroverted, doesn't that become compulsive behavior or selfish, where like you're not mindful of the other person's time?
Well, I kind of think so. I mean,
Because
I've
I'm
had
approached by
those.
people like that on LinkedIn. They're not, I don't think they're even that high on the extroverted scale, but they just don't have regard for your time. Like, hey, can I
Mhm,
call you? And then they do, and I don't know this person, and they start talking for like 3 hours if I don't stop them.
mhm.
It's like, I think that's a detriment to your career prospects and your entrepreneurial prospects.
Oh, sure. Yeah, like the employee at Yuma, if you would have known that going in, would have you hired somebody at 93% on either end of the spectrum?
Uh, I think it's good to have. Yeah, I probably, knowing what I know about her now, yeah, I still would have hired her.
No, I'm saying if you didn't know her.
Oh, well, this is why we don't do the test to
I
hire.
understand that, but if you did do the test, would you hire somebody at that?
Yeah, I do think that's slightly more valuable for that's then becomes industry dependent, right?
Sure.
I think our industry is more dominated by introverts. So in that case, it's more of the rare commodity. So I
Okay.
probably still would have. Just because our industry, if it was real estate where it's kind of the opposite, um,
Where everybody's an
that's the,
extrovert.
yeah, the introvert's actually the more rare commodity. Like this
Mm,
person can hunker down and vibe
mhm.
code if they need to, or
Sure.
what, you know what I mean? So it's never like a clean cut answer. It's always dependent on context, the situation, and
Mhm.
in a way, it gets back to reality. What is the reality you make for your business? You're basically creating a reality, like in order to build a business, you kind of have to create a reality in your head, at least. This is what I
A,
want it
vi
to look like.
a vision.
A vision, which we have a chapter on in the book, but then that reality turns into the actual reality, like the physical, not subjective reality, right? The objective reality. And then
Mhm.
you're like, okay, well, my industry, especially my specific niche within the industry, tends to have more introverts. Therefore, they're more a dime a dozen. Therefore, extrovert it's nice to have every now and then, especially when you know we did this personality and the other people on the team are all eyes, introverts. So it's helpful to have that. And I think like the point of
So
this is everyone has their pros and cons, but it's helpful to have a good mix if you're running an organization.
yeah, I agree with that. But specific to introvert, extrovert in our business, it depends on the position you're hiring for, in my mind.
Correct.
If you're hiring data entry, you don't need an extrovert.
Exactly right.
You're hiring a recruiter, you need somebody that's
Hmm.
somewhat extroverted. You surely
And
don't want an introvert.
that's where it gets interesting.
Mhm,
So that's where if you're managing, so it's one thing to manage yourself, right? To know yourself and to manage yourself. It's an
mhm,
additional layer of complexity, order of magnitude, to know your employees or the team you want to build. And it leads to the conclusion over my 2 decades of doing this, you cannot treat every employee the same. As anti-politically correct as that is, or non-politically correct, I found it to be the truth. It's
Well,
not
sure.
fair,
We're all humans. We're all different.
right? But like the PC answer is you treat
We're all the
everyone the
same.
same. That's
Well,
the
no, we're
rules are
all
the
the PC
rules.
interests. We're all the same.
Right. But when you're starting to tinker with your own company, and I
Mhm.
learned this by accident, and I had to teach some of our business partners this. You know who I'm talking about, where it's like, listen, man, you can't, not everyone's the same. And when you have the role of, when you're hiring for a coordinator, and you got somebody who is a decent coordinator if they tried, but they'd be much better at biz dev and community outreach. They're still helping your organization. And you
Sure.
could still keep them as a coordinator, but just give them like less difficult studies, maybe. Others, maybe less experienced entrepreneurs will say, no, you can't do that. You're basically subsidizing for their lack of doing the job. And I'm like, well, yes, that might be true, but then who's gonna do the biz dev? You tell me. Do we then force somebody else to be outgoing and an extrovert when they're not? Like you're still gonna need that role. Why not just have the one you already have, just switch them over a little?
Sure.
This is why morals become the meta virtue. Is this someone I can trust? Period. I don't give a shit if you're introvert, extrovert. Do I trust you?
But so again, so long as you're not out on the outer limits of the spectrum, I think anybody can do it. Like you can focus and do whatever you got to do to get whatever work done, right? Same with me. I can be very outgoing, though that's not my base setting. I can be very outgoing if needed, right?
Sure, but day in and day out's different.
Sure, day in and day out, I don't want to be outgoing all the time. It would drive me
Exactly.
nuts. It would drive me
Exactly.
nuts.
Day in and day out, I can't be hyper focused like that. Would drive me
Right.
nuts too.
Yeah.
And so, but your employees are day in, day out what you tell them to do.
Mhm.
So you're either gonna make them miserable and they're gonna fail, or you're gonna figure out where they fit in and give them a chance to thrive in there where they should be thriving.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's where it gets interesting, man. I mean,
Well,
from what I've seen.
surely if you're doing sales and you do this personality test, you want to hire all extroverts, almost all extroverts for sales, right? You have to build a connection. You have to be able to speak to do so. So
Yes.
you wouldn't want to hire introverts. I remember, quick story,
Well, go ahead. We
quick
love
story.
stories on this.
So my first venture into college, I took a summer job as a car salesman. Okay.
Oof, you were a sleazy car salesman as an introvert?
So I'm not really introverted. I'm like in between the two, but regardless, um, took a car sales position and I had no problem speaking with people. You didn't really speak to that many people throughout the day,
Hmm.
maybe 10 strangers throughout the day, right? And but there was this one guy, he was obviously very introverted, right? And he was a car salesman. He couldn't sell a car to save his life. Like you've heard the expression, literally he couldn't. And
What
he
would
would
he have
piss,
been on the scale, on the I scale?
if I had to guess, he would have been 75% at least.
Wow.
But he tried. He tried, but it's funny because the more I think, the more introverted you are, from my perspective, I think the harder it is to have charisma, right? If
Mm,
you're an introvert, you're not going to have charisma the further on the scale you are. The further along, the more introverted you are, less charismatic, period.
hmm hmm
Period. So for me to be charismatic, because I know who I am, I'm very self-aware. I actually need a little alcohol, generally speaking.
I mean, you entertained me with analyzing your vlog for 3 hours.
But
You're
my point
charismatic
is,
enough.
sure, but I also had some liquid fuel.
And it's very different. It's interesting because I never really listened to you take that role because I'm usually doing the same thing somewhere else. So
Sure.
I was forced to like just be a fly on the wall and listen to your approach. And it came out good. It did require a lot of editing. Mine would have required editing too, but for other reasons.
Mhm.
But it's definitely not the route I would have gone in like most of those conversations.
Yeah,
But somehow it worked. Somehow it still worked.
that's because I had plenty of liquid fuel
No,
to
it wasn't the lack of conversation was flowing good. So maybe that was the alcohol. It was the subject matter and the lines of questioning. It's
Oh,
different than mine.
sure. Oh, of course, we're two different people.
Right, right.
Plus,
But it was just
plus I had a strong buzz. So of course I'm going to ask just
well, that I
without.
knew, that I was aware of.
I was going to ask whatever came to mind. It didn't matter.
Yeah, so I guess that tells you that it could st like no matter what, it could still work. Like the outcome, you can still get successful outcomes because that vlog was actually a perfect A/B test for this chapter of the book. It's like my mic, you couldn't have scripted it better. My mic didn't work. So
So
you
give a little
literally
more
had
context to those who might be listening.
so Chris and I had a clinical research meetup, regional, it was a free meetup for people in our industries in Houston. And I told Chris beforehand, hey, bring your camera. We don't have our professional videographer there. So unfortunately, like, I
You and
gotta
I,
do it.
just
Yeah,
you and I.
but I really said, I gotta do it. I just need you to bring your camera in case mine dies, and like you can capture the B-roll.
Mhm,
And thank God you like did more than that because my mic was not plugged in. Like I just
mhm.
messed with it too much in my hoodie and the thing came out. It didn't really capture like sound at all. So I was like, shit. I know I had good shit on there too. And so I was like, let me look at Chris's. And I was like, fuck. And then I saw two files like 40 minutes each. I was like, okay, at least he recorded a lot. I hope it's not all bullshit. And then I went in there. I'm like, well, actually, he got a good amount of important
Material.
content. Yeah. So the output still came out good. We can't test which would have got better views. It's impossible to do, but you got a 1 of 10 video on YouTube, which is hard to do. Like one out of your last 10 videos, it's number one, ranks number one. And it
Really?
was mainly you.
Mhm,
Like it was me in the first 5 minutes because my mic did work the day before.
mhm,
And then I made the conversation like somewhat less boring. I guess that was the difference between me and your style. Not that you're boring, but my conversations tend to go quicker because I know it's for YouTube.
mhm,
So I'm like, it's different than my real conversation where I know I'm not on camera. It's like I'll slow it down a little more.
mhm.
And that's why there were times where I didn't have mine on and you got it though. So I had to like do splice like more rapid cuts from yours. But
Sure,
it still came out good.
I was just having conversations.
Yeah, yeah. But that's an example of like an introvert can still succeed in an extroverted role. If you
Mhm,
were to say like, I need a YouTuber, first
mhm.
thing someone's gonna say is, well, they better be an extrovert, right? And that's an
You would
example
think,
of you as even though barely, but an introvert by default that did well, had a successful
but
output.
again, this is not a role with a simple fact that it would make me an alcoholic that
Oh,
I
so
would
you don't
want.
think you can do this for like professional vlogger?
No, like once in a while I could do it no problem without
Because you said you're
alcohol.
down to do it in Raleigh.
Sure.
First thing I texted you, thank
Uh,
God you did it. Thank
but
you.
wait, you're leaving something out. I
And
said
can
there
you
better,
please do this in Raleigh?
and I said that so long as there's alcohol there, no problem. I think that's what I said to you.
I see. So if you were to do full-time vlogger, you
Mhm.
would turn into an alcoholic, you think?
I just think the content would be better, honestly, because I overthink things
Yeah,
when I'm not drinking.
I see.
Whereas it would just flow, and yes, some of it would be kind of, incoherent, kind of, and it come off as an asshole, whatever, but it would all be honest and genuine, opposed to overthinking whatever question I'm going to ask. Is this
Mm,
in any way offensive? Which is kind of the steps I take, generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, when I'm
yeah.
speaking with someone.
So that was definitely an extroverted task. Like on an introverted task, like analyzing a budget or something, I do have to get hyper focused. Like, so I'd probably get addicted, not that I'm already not, but even more so addicted to caffeine. I might throw in like nicotine or something in there, like the chewables, just to focus on a budget, just to hone in on the line items and maybe building a model to analyze like, you know, I don't think I can do that without reverting to some kind of substance abuse as
Sure.
well.
And that's a good, I guess, example of how I'm not 100% or even close introverted because as you just mentioned, I haven't used nicotine in years. But there's occasions when I'm just not feeling up to doing a budget or something along those lines. And it's like, if only I had some nicotine, this would help. I would be more inclined to take care of this.
Ah, you can get the Zins. They sell them at the stores
Sure,
now.
I don't want to, but my point is, yeah, I think more along the scale you are, the more predetermined you are to do that, whatever item it is, right?
So
In other words,
is the ideal someone in the 50 percentiles for everything?
I don't think necessarily because I think there's strengths to being
Mm.
more of something. I just don't think you want to be too far along. Like, for example,
So you think the
getting,
50s are like too boring or like too normal?
I don't know if I would use either of those words, especially since
Yeah.
most of my characteristics are around the 50 mark for some reason. But
Well, mine used to be when I first started these tests.
okay,
I was an ENFP and all of them were like in the 50s.
okay. I just, I, so I think it's like you were mentioning with employees, right? I just think you're more inclined even more so the further along that spectrum you move, right? So
Mm.
just getting back to our initial one, introvert, extrovert, it's almost impossible to take a 95% extrovert and say, here, I want you to do this one task all day, do nothing else, speak to no
Yeah,
one, and
right.
just do that all day, right? Good luck with that.
Right, right. So then in to use the vlogging example, I should be happy you were a 50% introvert. Because if you were a 75% introvert, like some of the people at that
Oh,
meetup,
yeah, like
that would have been
I
a disaster. There would have
funny
been
you
maybe
bring this
nothing
up.
usable.
I've never had my wife take this test, and I think I will now, but
Have her do it and send me the results.
I would speculate she's somewhere between 75 and 90% introvert.
So my wife did it, and she's an INFJ.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
INFJ.
she's somewhere introverted around my spectrum, I would bet, in the
Mm-hmm.
50s.
Mm-hmm. She shares
Yeah.
your first and last letters
Yeah. Well, I would guess we're really close introverted wise. Like, because Dora can be extroverted as
when
well.
she wants
Like
to.
like I can.
If she likes the person, she can be. But yeah, she defaults
She,
towards introvert.
I would guess she's a little more introverted, just not a lot.
Yeah, I would say you're about right. But then on the intuition and the feeling,
Yeah,
she matches me.
she, sure, she's female. She has to.
Ooh, shots fired. Ashley, who we know, is a INFP. She's
Really?
all my letters except the I.
It kind of surprises me that she's
No,
introverted.
no, my bad. She's a ENFJ. All
Okay,
my letters except the end.
makes more sense.
ENFJ. And Monica, who just did this test, is the same as her, no? ENFJ.
But probably way more extroverted.
Oh yeah, yeah.
No.
So, you know how they say just be yourself? Does that mean if you are defaulting towards an introvert, your best self is to be the maximum introvert?
No. So
What do they
ideally,
mean by be your best self then?
I don't know. You're asking a philosophical question now.
Yeah, be the
Uh,
best version of yourself. What does that mean?
so is this morality? Is this virtues? Is this
So I'm bringing it
characteristics?
up because when I started doing these tests like about a decade ago,
Hmm.
and I've always been ENFP, but like I said in the beginning, I was like ENFP all in the 50s.
Hmm.
And like 10 years later, I'm ENFP, but on a lot of the stuff, I'm like, on some of them, I'm even in the 80s.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's good or bad, basically. And I'm not doing it on purpose. It's just
Sure.
how it's coming out. Well, at least consciously, I'm not doing it on purpose.
Well,
I
I think
kind
there
of do
is.
have, the older I get, more of a fuck you attitude. Like, I don't give a fuck, you know? But you
Mhm.
would think that would take me more in the I territory.
So no, I disagree.
Okay.
So I think the older people get, the more steadfast they get in their ways, right? So you're just becoming more of you, right? Of your
Right.
ways, and they're projecting towards your personality, right?
So then
You're
should
just
I work
more
on going back towards the
you're
middle?
more inclined and suited towards your ways.
So would the right thing be to work
So,
toward backwards
do you think
towards
it's a
the,
good idea to be flexible or no?
yeah,
You think flexibility matters?
yeah.
Well, then, yeah, you probably want to go back towards the middle a bit.
So then the middle is
But see,
probably
I'm not,
ideal, right?
no, not necessarily. That's what I'm saying. I don't necessarily, so I don't know if I agree with you that flexibility is a good idea. I think it is,
I see.
at least in brief moments in time, right? When I say brief, I don't mean like 5 minutes. I mean, maybe it's for a day or two, right? In other
Right.
words, taking that example again of somebody who's 100% extrovert and they have to get this important task done in 2 days and it's 20 hours of work, can they get it
Mm,
done? And I would guess no, right?
right.
So they have, whereas if you're a little less extroverted, so long as you can rein it in and focus and get it done, yes, right? It's
I
not, you
see.
can do it. You're maybe miserable about doing it, but you can do it, right? So that's kind of what I mean in terms of, I think a little closer to the middle makes sense because if you're too far out on the spectrums, you're not going to be able to flip and take and do the other side of it, whatever the characteristic may be.
Yeah,
So
see,
like
I'm not entirely sure.
intuition or judging or any of those other features as well, I think they work the same way.
Yeah. This is this is the issue when I'm not entirely sure what the answer is, but I think something is missing from maybe even this book in general. And maybe it's not too late to put it in there somewhere, but or at least to be addressed. But what makes you happy? And that's harder to measure because you don't know if you're happier because you're more secure in your finances or where you are in life, or whether you're happier because you
Yeah,
are becoming
I
more of yourself.
I see. I don't think you could even write a book on happiness. I
Oh, there's
don't
plenty
think.
of books been written on happiness.
I'm sure there have been, but I don't think they're accurate because I think you have to address abuse, right? You have to address how you grew up with your parents, what they taught you, were they
Right,
good or
right.
bad people, how
Well,
you
you
are
can,
financial. There's too many variables in that equation to say, okay, this is how happiness works. Because there's plenty
well,
of people that were
sure,
abused that are happy.
but I agree. Yeah, so you're referring to like the source of maybe one's unhappiness. But what about the striving to just be happy? Be the
I don't
happiest you can be.
see, I think there's underlying health issues, mental health issues that I don't think
Mm,
some people can possibly even be happy, like truly happy.
I see. But that's what, that's the outliers.
Mhm. Probably. I mean,
Or
like the saying
happiness,
go,
like even the mentally ill with like treatment resistant depression, for example.
mhm,
They can still have, they can
moments
still
of
work
happiness.
toward, and they could work towards trying to be happier. It doesn't mean they'll get it. I don't actually think anyone gets it. It's the journey of striving towards at least trying.
Well, I mean, there's certainly some things you can address about happiness, like the expression goes, and it's 100% true, because I've both had very little money and I've had, I'm not wealthy, but I've definitely been
Oh,
carefree
Chris,
about,
this is my rich American friend for the
yeah,
foreign
sure.
reactors.
I don't care. I'm not concerned about money. So while that doesn't necessarily make me rich, it does definitely make me, aside from where I was at one time in my life, where I truly had to care about money at all times, right?
Right.
So I think I was actually happier then than now.
Hmm.
So um, I think that expression is 100% true. Money does not buy you happiness. You
Right.
could, because you
That's one
buy
of those
some,
cliches that turns
right,
out is a
to be
cliche for a
true.
reason.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you buy something you really wanted, really liked. Yeah, it
Right.
makes you kind of excited. I don't know about happy though. It makes you excited for a
Okay.
while.
But what about striving for achieving happiness? I think that's when we get into personalities and stuff and how to be a good entrepreneur, isn't ultimately the purpose of being an entrepreneur? I mean, maybe not for all, but to at least achieve some level of happiness for yourself. Otherwise, what's the point of making the best product ever if you're not happy with yourself?
Again, this is why I say there's too many variables to happiness.
Right.
I mean,
I
there's
would
the
never write a book on happiness, but I think it should be in this one somewhere. Most people probably turn to this book because they want to do better for themselves, right?
Mhm, mhm.
How can you accurately define that and not at least address this?
Well, no, I agree with you. You don't want to start a business that's going to make you miserable. Your mental well-being is
Right.
important,
That's at least a floor.
right? So, and if you're going to do something that makes you miserable, because we know a lot of people that do,
Hmm.
you better have an exit plan because you're not going to withstand it for long, right? Maybe a few years.
Because a lot of people are quitting their jobs because they're miserable.
Right. I
So they think
mean,
entrepreneurship, okay, let me learn how to do this.
we both kind of agree that and there's many that have gone much longer, but for the most part, most CRAs make it 7 years, somewhere in that realm.
Hmm.
And because it's kind of a miserable job. So by far, it's not the worst job, and you get paid well. But a lot of people, they just they're miserable.
Right.
I've had two CRAs break down in front of me and cry for over a half hour. Two,
I've known
right?
a CRA that became an alcoholic that we used to kind of joke together about how much he drinks,
Hmm.
where they had to make an emergency plane landing because he was having an alcoholic seizure.
Wow.
And then I never saw him again.
Yeah. It was
So,
killing. Basically, it was killing me.
yeah,
So, yeah, I mean, you could start a business because you know it'll be successful, and maybe you started not knowing it'll make you miserable because not everyone is suited to be an entrepreneur,
yeah,
and having that stress. So I guess you need to, this is part of pain tolerance. You need to be able to handle stress because I'm going to tell you right now, being a business owner definitely has moments of high stress.
right.
Either you're not making ends meet for the month,
Hmm.
not sure where you're going to come up with money, or maybe you're doing something you really don't like and it has to get done and it might take you a month,
Yeah.
and you're kind of miserable about that. There's just a lot of different stressful situations. And you have to be able to handle stress. Now, does that mean it's a miserable job for you? No, because I don't think you could start a business that's not going to have stress.
Correct.
So I think you need to understand what is it that makes me miserable. And if it's stress, maybe you shouldn't be an entrepreneur.
Or you figure out how to respond to it better. And then in
Right.
your ability to learn that, you become happy. Like, hey, when I come across a challenge, I have figured out a way to overcome it. That makes me
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah. Don't let that be alcohol.
No, like overcome it, I mean in a successful way, like a sustainable, long-term way, healthy way.
Right. That's where a lot of people smoke or use nicotine. It's to alleviate some stress response.
Yeah. Or
Me, I go
meditate, or meditate, or,
meditate or go get some exercise. That's what I do. I go
well,
exercise.
exercise seems to be the best medicine in regards to that. But like all like these virtues, and I brought up happiness here just unplanned, but if you look at the virtues we have, pain tolerance, the
Mhm.
ability to withstand setback, I mean that's part of like avoiding despair. Grit is kind of like fighting through the dark
Tough
stuff
times.
and the
Yeah.
tough times. Money agnostic is not really making money the barometer for your success or ultimately happiness. Vision is, I mean, maybe it goes into vision too. Like you should create a vision where you have happiness as part of it,
Well,
either
and
for
that's
you
part,
or your customers, right? Or
and that's
someone.
for a lot of entrepreneurs, if not most, I think vision is part of the happiness structure because, I mean, quite frankly, I would be miserable if I right now with my current life structure if I had to have a 9 to 5 job, right? I don't
Mhm.
know if I could keep that job right now just because of what I have going on in my life personally, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's why people become entrepreneurs is because they can dictate more. And you're still going to have to
Mhm.
work. You still have to put in the hours, but you can dictate more what those hours look like. What time am I putting those hours in?
So that ability to control
Your
more
life
of the
structure.
variables
Yeah.
of your life's day-to-day life structure,
Yeah. And I think that lends to happiness.
that lends
And
to happiness, yes.
that's not going to make you happy, but
I
like
don't
what I'm
think
talking
anything
about,
makes you happy other than like drugs that literally hijack your reward system but don't last long
yeah,
and they
right,
have detrimental side effects, right?
right.
I don't think true happiness ever achieved in life. I think you may have moments and glimpses of it, but to sustain it, I don't think is actually human.
Yeah, I don't think that's possible.
But it doesn't mean you shouldn't strive towards trying to be happy in
Well,
your endeavors.
I have a little different philosophical view. Personally, I think you should try and grab happiness when you can,
Hmm.
right? And that's not to say you're making other people miserable doing so, because that's not true happiness. If people close in your life, you're making miserable for your happiness.
Right.
You should have a little bit more concern of others, if that's the
Hmm.
case, because there are people like that. Um, what I'm talking about, though, is for me, philosophically speaking, I know I'm not going to be happy all the time. What I keep in mind is I don't need to make people miserable around me because I am unhappy or
Hmm.
I'm experiencing stress. I think it's more kind of concern of those around you. And I think at the same time, even if they don't know, hey, I had a really shitty day, but I'm not going to take it on you. I'm just going to keep it within, right?
Hmm.
If I can discuss it with you without kind of becoming a dick about it, I will. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, don't affect others ultimately, right?
Right.
Whereas a lot of people do. That's more my philosophical take. I can't be happy all the time. Let's
Even
just not get in the way
unknowingly.
of,
Even
let's not get in the
unknowingly.
way, yes, but let's not get in the way of other people's potential happiness.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. And the inverse also is true, where like maybe you are not having a bad day, but you react to someone who is coming off as a dick, but in reality, you realize they might have just had a bad day as well. So, yeah,
And that crosses my mind anytime somebody's like a jerk to me. It's like, what the fuck's wrong with this person? But then it's like, well, maybe they're not in the same mindscape that I am in terms of just keep things kind of internalized and don't affect others. They just don't. It's like the golden rule. It
yeah,
really
it's
is
like
the
the
golden
golden,
rule.
it's the golden rule. It's that also that other cliche of like, you never know what someone else is going through, so just be
Hmm.
kind.
Yep.
Uh, which is kind of hard to do once you're taking offense to someone else's actions. But
Right.
I mean, we've gotten kind of far off the introverted extroverted scale, but I think it's important somewhere in the book this goes in.
No, I don't disagree at all. You have to be mindful of what
Yeah.
you're getting yourself into. And if you think you're going to be miserable, how long can you be miserable for?
Well, the
Why
reason I brought
don't
it up,
don't start something you can't finish.
yeah, the reason I brought it up here in this personality section is the natural thing, and what I was doing too is like, is it good or bad that I'm becoming more ENFP, or what's ideal? And I think that's kind of the wrong way to look at it. The right way to look at it is what makes you happy? Like when are you most happy? Like when you are at what ratio of these letters do you find yourself
So
most happy?
I would add a second component to that.
Hmm.
I think it's two, right? Actually, maybe even three. So what makes you happy? What makes your immediate family happy? And then lastly, what makes you successful? because maybe you need more of something in order to be successful. So it's great to train your mind and body
Mhm.
to be more that way if it's a requirement of your position,
Right.
right? So maybe you need to be more extroverted. And I do believe you, in regards to all these characteristics, I think you can train yourself to a degree to be more like something, right? And
Yeah.
it'll become personalized, so it will be part of you. Now, if you were born naturally 75% introverted, can you make yourself 75% extroverted? No, I don't think so. But I do think you could get more close to 50%
Right.
with a mindset and training and finding what works for you in terms of being extroverted with the introverted example, right?
Sure.
But it will take definite work on your part. Like everybody loves Adolf Hitler. And that's a joke for anybody who doesn't know what jokes are. But why I'm bringing him up is because he knew he was, if I remember correctly, he was an introvert, right?
Hmm.
And he wanted to be the ultimate ruler of Germany. He would stand in front of a mirror for hours and give speeches to that mirror and do body languages and stuff that people would find charismatic. And he would do it over and over and over to train himself on what the look is, what the behavior is, how he could connect with others, and all of
Hmm.
that. And he
Hmm.
spent like hours and hours, days and weeks and months upon one another to get there. So
Hmm.
you won't need to do that, but something along those lines. If you're trying to overcome something that's
Right.
inherent.
But I still think the North Star should be like what ultimately do it because it's making you happy, not just to achieve another means to, not just as another means to an end. Like there's some people who are truly introverted or extroverted to cover up something else, like to cover up maybe unhappiness. And I don't know. I think everyone needs to judge their own selves. But if you look at somebody like Elon Musk, because the third thing you said was success,
Mhm.
and I don't know if he's happy or not. That's a very subjective thing that only the person can answer. But
Sure.
one of his kids disowned him, and he's talked about publicly about how much that affects him and how much that hurts him.
Mhm.
And you can now argue as to why that kid chose to go the route that they did. Maybe it was rebelliousness and did it
Mhm.
on purpose out of spite.
Mhm.
That can't sit too well with Elon because essentially what that means is he sacrificed his son for success if you follow that path.
Yeah. Necessarily. I mean,
Well, you
there's
never
other.
know. You never know.
No, that's definitely a possibility. I agree.
It's a
If I
possibility he might be thinking because in his book he kind of alluded to like he didn't go that far, but I kind of like to look further or read between the tea leaves.
I think it's a combination of. I mean, I'm completely guessing, but I think it's a combination of things with Elon, right? He's on the autistic scale.
Hmm.
He definitely works hard.
Hmm.
I also think there's something to be said about having 14 children with 14 different women,
Yeah, it's
right?
a high ratio. Yeah,
Right.
it's definitely not a
So,
traditional.
right. So I think all of these play into a child's
Yeah,
perception of you as a parent,
sure, sure,
right? You can't follow through in terms of a family. You
sure.
can't you don't give me much time because you're busy with your job. I mean, all of this plays into the equation in terms of how a child would perceive you as a parent.
Right. And it
So,
boils down, in my opinion, it boils down to what's gonna make you the happiest, and then you threw in your family, and you threw in being successful. So those three things are gonna have at times trade-offs, and that's very subjective to everyone's own formula because not everyone's family needs the same commitments or uh ratios for like somebody might need to spend more time with their kids as opposed to other, and that's a very personal thing. You're not going to buy a book on this topic that's going to give you the answers. The answers
Hmm.
are intrinsic. But I think a lot of times we look for becoming successful, and a lot of the people buying this book, we look towards being successful. What we should really be looking for in addition to that, maybe, because that being successful probably makes a lot of people happy that have picked up this book, but also being happy. Like you can't forget maybe the most important part of it all.
So I would actually approach this a little differently. How many people do you think are miserable at their job? How many people hate their
I would
job?
say more, I know where this is going. I think more people are miserable in their jobs than in their own businesses.
That's not exactly where I was going.
Oh,
See,
okay.
I would say a majority of people hate their job.
Yeah, I would agree.
50, 60, 70%, somewhere in that realm, hate their job. So it's not a matter of it doesn't bother them to do it or do they like their job. And
Right.
I think it's rare for somebody to like their job, like to truly like it and enjoy doing it. I think that's pretty rare. I would say the vast majority hate their job. It's not that they can stand it, it's like they actually hate going there. They dread going to work,
No,
right?
I think the vast majority can stand it.
You
But
think can stand it?
I think the vast majority can stand their jobs. I think there is a huge segment that hates it, and then there's a
Well,
very small minority that actually
uh,
enjoys it.
I want to tell you right now, I look at the 91 when I have to get on it at rush hour in the morning, which is rare, thankfully. And I'm
Yeah.
like, every one of these people hate their job because it's forcing them to do this. That's what I mean. I think there's components. It's not necessarily their job itself, but
Hmm.
there's something about their job they hate,
Well, they can
right?
hate certain aspects of your job and not hate it collectively.
Well, I'm saying on a daily basis they hate it,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So
And
everybody who's got
and
a
everyone's different. I mean, what if there's a billionaire in that traffic and he hates that particular rush hour, but he's like, I don't do this all the time, but I hate this right now.
well, I'm more speaking of the people that have a 9 to 5, they have to commute every day.
Right.
I would be
Right.
surprised if any of them really like their job because the fact is they're doing that, they're selling their soul, right,
Hmm.
for that income. And
Right. Right.
everybody hates sitting in traffic.
But
If I had
you know
if
what's
I had
crazy though?
if I had to sit in traffic for 4 hours a day, I don't know how long it would be before my head would have lead in
I know you've mentioned that numerous times.
it.
You know what's crazy though? Happiness is also, obviously it's based in context, but it's also based on comparison with alternatives. You know what makes someone, you know what like a trick is that will make anyone instantly happy despite being miserable?
Hmm,
Being told you have terminal cancer, or even worse, your kid has terminal cancer, and then being called an hour later and saying, hey, we made a mistake, we were wrong. You know, that's not the case.
sure.
Guarantee you that person is not miserable anymore on that in that traffic.
Oh, for sure.
And that says
You're
something,
gonna have that trick played on you every day.
no, but that says something about what we value and what makes us happy. Like we just kind of maybe those people are miserable, not just because they do it every day, but they're comparing it to the alternative, or they're not seeing the worst possible situation that can actually be.
Oh, sure.
And so this is where it becomes very subjective. And then for some of those people in traffic, maybe that is their reality too. It's like,
And when I'm sitting in that traffic when I've had to do it, and I just think, well, there's all kinds of worse things that could be happening. I mean, I'm
yeah,
not thinking about my child has terminal cancer. I'm more thinking like I could be living in Sudan and have no food, and my family has
yeah,
no food. It's
like
more
it's
along those
gratitude,
lines. Yeah,
gratitude,
it's more along those lines. You know, thankfully,
practice gratitude.
I have the income. I still couldn't do this. I don't know if I could do it for 5 years, do that commute stuff like
Right.
that, like
And
that.
that's kind of where there's a there's a practice of gratitude people should probably make a habit. Meditation, religion, sometimes that's all part of it. But still, those are just short-term fixes. I think the long-term fixes, if you're something's fundamentally broken, you need to work on fixing it.
Oh,
And I think
certainly.
that's as humans, we have all the tools we need to be able to do that. And I think ultimately that's why people bought this book in the first place, is how do I just make myself a little, how do I make my life a little bit better than it was the day before and the day before and the day before? And it's not always going to be fun, but ultimately, if I'm shooting at the right direction, I have a chance. And
Oh,
I
most
think
certainly.
I think that's the big picture, the meta
I,
picture in all
I,
of this.
I would add the flip to that. Do consider, and we've already stated this in previous videos, but do consider whether or not being an entrepreneur is the right route for you.
Mm.
Because you may find you're more miserable than you were previously from
Yeah,
whatever you were doing.
yeah.
Um,
Now
I
the
think
majority no, but yes, there is.
hopefully this book, and I think it's both mine and Dan's goal, will give you a little bit of insight into whether or not being an entrepreneur is the right path for you.
Right.
Um,
The good news from my experiences is that typically, if you could make it past those 2 years of your startup
Most stressful,
and you
usually.
control your own ambitions, so like you don't just grow big for the sake of growing big, because now you just created a new rat race for yourself. But if that's something you really want to do and makes you happy, like Elon, go for it. But the majority of people who make it past that 2 year trough are generally happier than if they would have stayed in their jobs, if they were miserable before. So that's the good news. You don't have to be like a multimillionaire to change your happiness. And like you said, you can have more levers to control the variables of your day-to-day life. That's all some people need. Some people just need more respect. Like, hey, I work for a manager who's such an asshole. Just not working for him is gonna make me a lot happier.
But you can just go get another job if that's the case.
Right. Right. That too. Yeah.
So, were you done with your thought? So I have
I think so.
okay, I have another quick story. So the reverse of that is true as well. So my third stint in college, I worked at Domino's Pizza. Okay.
Nice.
And I knew a guy there who, for years, him and his wife had owned a Baskin Robbins.
Okay.
And he said he so much enjoyed working at Domino's Pizza over Baskin Robbins. He sold the Baskin Robbins. He said he couldn't take it anymore. He was an older guy dealing
So
with a
he owned
teenage.
the Baskin Robbins.
Yeah. He said basically he owned a job,
Hmm.
is the way he looked at it. And he said just dealing with all the daily ridiculousness of the teenagers that worked for him. And half the
Mm.
time they didn't want to show up or they didn't want to finish their
Hmm.
shift and he had to come in and take their job. He said it was just a nightmare. He said he earns a little less now working at the time. This was, Jesus, a long time ago. They're like 35 years ago. But he said that just alleviating those concerns, right? Of ultimately, I'm the one that's responsible. He said alleviating that concern made him so much more happy, right? In which he's no longer the responsible party.
And that's big time.
Yeah. And he did it. I don't remember for sure, but I think it was like a dozen years or something like that. He owned the Baskin Robbins.
That's big time, man. I mean, that right there, there's a lot of people that might be less happy working for themselves than they are working, maybe just changing jobs or
Hmm.
working for someone else, or maybe being like who we talked about before we started recording, the number two employee at a startup. Like, and maybe they give you a little bit of ownership so you feel like you're an owner, but you're really an employee.
Yeah, you're not ultimately responsible.
I think that dude seems pretty happy talking to him now versus talking to him 4 years ago when he worked for a CRO.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and Yeah, and he's also been a business owner before, and it seems happier in this role.
Yeah, and that very well could be how a lot of people are situated. They don't want ultimate responsibility.
So the key, I guess, is knowing yourself, maybe
It
trying,
is.
maybe trying, and then assessing a lot of things about how you're feeling. Your happiness should be very important. I think that's pretty good for this section. I mean, it's
At
more than
some
just introverted, extroverted.
at some point, we're going to have to break down the best characteristics, I think, for an entrepreneur. No,
Well, yeah. I mean, happiness
I
more of an ideal.
yeah, that's not a characteristic in terms of best entrepreneur. That is picking, in my opinion, that's picking a position that doesn't disqualify happiness for you, right? Because I think you could be just as happy as an employee as an
Yeah, oh yeah.
entrepreneur potentially.
Absolutely.
So it's not
Maybe
necessarily
more, maybe more.
yeah, for some people, that's where the characteristics of your personality type come into play. Because a lot of people don't want responsibility, like ultimate responsibility, which if
Yeah.
you're a business owner and you're the one responsible for everything, that's absolutely everything's on your shoulders.
Yeah.
So some people aren't situated for that or suited. When a customer starts chewing you out, if you're doing B2C business, and someone starts chewing you out, you may not be set up for that,
Right.
right? So,
Right.
or B2B, that happens too. I've been chewed out a couple times. I don't care for it, but you know, you got to deal with it.
Well, I think it comes back to philosophy and Plato's ideals or Plato's metaphysical concepts of ideals. Like, there's no such thing as the ideal chair. If God invented the idea of a chair, or if humans did, God would have let us know what's the ideal version of a chair, right? But if humans ultimately are the ones who invented chairs, that means there is no ideal. The ideal is really for the person to discover
It's subjective.
what they prefer, right?
Whereas, I mean, something a little bit easier to understand would be weather. Most people probably prefer something around sunny and 75 degrees, something like that.
Yeah,
But not all people do.
yeah.
Some people might like it at 100. Others might like it at 60 or 50.
And that's where you can decide where you want to live.
Yeah, but it's subjective. I mean,
Sure.
preferences are subjective, just like whether or not you should be an entrepreneur. Only you really know, are you suited and well suited for this landscape, this
Right.
pathway.
Right. We're not so much trying to teach you what to think, but how to think.
What to think about and to make this evaluation.
But we at least hone in on certain things we think are important. So, uh, yeah,
Yeah, I
that's it.
would say though, if you absolutely can't handle stress and you don't like being responsible, being an entrepreneur is not for you.
Well, same with air traffic controller.
Yeah, don't do that either. For sure.
That's notoriously one of the most depressing jobs and stressful jobs.
Yeah, don't do that either. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of things you're not suited for.
And
In
sometimes
the
people said they don't like being entrepreneur when they picked one of the worst things, like the example of your story, that he was a franchisee, right? Literally, you are buying your own job because there is no creativity. There's none of these like
yeah, good point. I didn't really
true
think of that,
entrepreneurship.
but you're 100% correct.
You're essentially working for the corporation.
Not only that, but they dictate to you exactly everything. This is what
Yeah,
you can sell the product for. This is the products you will offer. This is what you will
yeah.
post in your store. Yeah.
Something simple like you wanted to make a podcast to promote your company. I don't think you could.
Oh, I think you could do that, right? We have a locate. There's a Baskin Robbins located here.
Sure, but there's legal limitations to that as opposed to you and
Sure,
I that can do whatever
there's
the fuck we want.
sure there's copyrights. You probably can't use the logo without permission and things like that. Sure.
Well, there's probably things like brand representation,
Mhm.
more responsibility. So, yeah, I mean, maybe he would have been a good entrepreneur, but like a pool man or a plumber or, something else.
He picked the wrong venue.
He picked the thing that's built for you to just walk in. There's always strings attached when it's that easy.
So, question, would you consider him an entrepreneur?
No.
Well, see, I still would because ultimately it's you that's responsible for paying payroll,
I take it
increasing
back. I
sales.
take it back. I do, but it's a derivative of an entrepreneur, so
Yes, a lesser version.
it's a lesser version of Plato's ideal. Well, he's putting money, he's risking his money and time for an outcome. So that is the definition is
Mhm.
entrepreneur, but it's the lowest form of an entrepreneur you can probably have.
Yeah, it was like you and I talked. I think it was you that brought this idea up like 20 years ago, a clinical research site in a box or some shit like that.
Yeah, like
Uh,
the E-Myth revisited
do
really,
you remember this clinical
yeah,
research site in a box?
of course.
Okay.
It's still
So,
something I think would work.
so very similar to franchising, right? Like you're
Yeah,
referring to in
yeah,
terms of a Baskin Robbins.
yeah.
Yeah. It would just be franchising research.
Where you're essentially creating rules and enforcing them on your franchisees.
Hmm.
They have skin in the game because they put money into it.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. We can go on forever, which we probably will. But at least for this segment, I have nothing left to add.
No, I could probably talk about this for another 5 or 6 hours, but that's what the book's for.
Yeah, we got more.
Um,
Like, subscribe. Oh, go ahead.
Actually, I'll wait until we're done recording. Thank you for
Like,
watching, everybody.
subscribe, comment, share. Bye bye.